And we are live. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to A Bookish Moment. I'm Sarah Burr.
And I am JC Kenny, and it's so exciting to have a fellow Midwesterner hanging out with us today, Sarah. So I think it's time to get bookish.
Yes, we have got a treat for you guys this afternoon. We are so excited to welcome Kate Michaelson to the show.
Woo!
We're going to be talking about her brand new novel, Hidden Rooms, which is... it's so good. I have not been gripped, hooked, and just like enveloped by a book in a really, really long time the way that I was Hidden Rooms. Kate, it's so wonderful to have you on the show. Welcome. We're so excited to get to talk with you today.
Thank you so much. That's so kind.
And this is all about you and about your book. Hidden Rooms, I just want to echo real quick. Hidden Rooms got me out of a book slump. All of us book fans have those where you're kind of reading and just really can't find something. But yeah, Hidden Rooms totally cured that for me. It was amazing. So do us a favor, tell us a little bit about yourself and about Hidden Rooms.
Okay, sure. Well, I'm glad that I got you out of a book slump. So that's a wonderful compliment. Thank you. And I'm so happy to be here because I'm a fan of your show and both of you.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm a debut author. This is my first book. My name's Kate Michaelson. I live in Toledo, Ohio, but I grew up in a very small town in rural Ohio called Greenwich, Ohio. And the book is based on sort of a fictionalized version of Greenwich. And I grew up on a farm, so the book is also set in a farm. And the main character in Hidden Rooms is named Riley. And she's a 29-year-old distance runner who grew up in this little town and wanted to get out of it as she was growing up. And then she turned 18, went off to college, moved to Seattle for a while. And then her dad got sick and she moved right back home. There's just kind of no question in her mind what she wanted to do. And so the book starts with her having just come back home and she's having these strange health issues that she can't explain. And so she doesn't know if she can't get a diagnosis. And she doesn't know if she is being kind of gaslit by doctors or if it's all in her head. And the only person who seems to really understand this is her brother's fiancée, whose name is Beth, because Beth has some chronic pain issues herself. So she kind of gets this idea of just having this malady that won't go away. And so the book really kind of kicks off with Beth disappearing and eventually is found dead. And then Riley's brother, Ethan, is Beth's fiancé, and he's the prime suspect. So poor Riley, ends up having to find out what happened to her friend Beth, clear her brother of a murder charge, and then also unravel her own medical mystery during all of this.
A little walk in the park.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
So many layers to this story. And I mean, first of all, congratulations on a debut novel that just like knocks it out of the park.
Yes.
So gripping and just so there is, so much that you touch on in this book. You've got a mystery, but you also have this kind of this family drama playing out, and this really like nice. Well, I don't know about nice, but a slice of life in kind of modern America with how we are kind of being faced in at least in like the medical field, where patients are having these problems that they're really having to prove to their doctor that I am not feeling well, like I shouldn't be feeling like this. And that was a theme that I found very, very fascinating. And before we really kind of dive into the meat of everything, we've got a bunch of folks chiming in the chat, with Claudia saying hello, Mizan saying hello, Sir Reads a Lot wishing everyone a good afternoon. Love that like username.
Yes.
So awesome. We've got Farmhouse Reader saying greetings. Mizan said, I looked up Hidden Rooms on Goodreads and sounds so good. DHB is saying hello. And we've got a lot of people saying congratulations on your first book. And then, so reads a lot, asking about for farmhouse reader, I think is John Deere or New Holland, which I believe those are going to be, what's your tractor preference?
Yes. Yep.
So got some good discourse going on in there. Okay. Hidden rooms. Before we actually dive into the characters themselves, I would love to talk about the setting of this fictional town, North Haven, because there is so much going on with the residents, but the land itself and this kind of age-old conflict between new development and keeping things as is. Beth has been working on this renovation project of this castle, which sounds amazing, to turn it into an events venue. And there's just a lot going on in the town when we start off the book. So I wonder if you could kind of introduce our readers to North Haven and kind of give them a little peek as to kind of what's going on and how life unfolds there.
Sure. Yeah. I'm happy to talk about North Haven because I had a lot of fun sort of taking my hometown, which is Greenwich, Ohio, and sort of reshaping it into the fictionalized version of it, North Haven. So Greenwich is pretty rural. It's about 45 minutes from the nearest mall or movie theater. And when I was growing up, I was a little bit like Riley, where I kind of wanted to get out of town and be closer to things. And it was only as I got older that I realized just how wonderful it was where I lived. In fact, I dedicated the book to my parents for raising me in a place that is so special. And I think that just sort of the countryside is really beautiful there. It's really open, lots of woods. And then I'm also sort of obsessed with old houses. And so this area has all kinds of old farmhouses. It was settled in the early 1800s by people from Connecticut. And so they took all the names from Connecticut, like Greenwich, Connecticut, Norwalk, and brought them to Ohio. And so now we say Greenwich, Ohio. So I took the name of North Haven from a Connecticut name. And so North Haven has kind of fallen on hard times, I guess you could say. The town sort of in decline a little bit. And so people, I started writing this around the time COVID was going on, and a lot of people were moving out of cities and wanting to work remotely, and they were moving to these small towns. And people are starting to see a lot of opportunity for places that were maybe an hour or an hour and a half from a big city to start making them, not suburbs, but exurbs that are even farther out where professionals could live and work. And so there's sort of this movement in North Haven with Beth and her father, Doug, to sort of redevelop some of these places and put in some townhomes for millennials and kind of change the landscape. And a lot of people in town say, well, that could be really good. It will bring in revenue. And then other people say, we kind of like it the way it is. We've lived here, the way it is for a long time, and we don't necessarily want it to change.
The picture that you painted was, and especially I just learned a new word with the exurbs and being so very rooted in kind of our world that we're living in right now. I thought that it just like it was so real. North Haven felt like, I could go to a town in Ohio and this would be like, I would be in North Haven. So it was really, the setting was so vivid and just so well thought out and really a part of the story that it just made for, it was such a great character of itself.
Thank you so much. And you mentioned the castle too, that is based on an actual Second Empire house that I toured that's
cool.
kind of near where I grew up. So, and it was just this place that I drove by and I just kind of stopped in the middle of the road and looked at it. And I was like, that house has a story and I have to, at least tell a story that involves that house. So just, old houses, I think, have a lot of stories. So I was happy to be able to fit some of those into the story too.
Oh, well, and tell a story that you did. I mean, you've crafted especially, so kind of switching to characters, the characters that we meet, we have our narrator, Riley, who she's going to her brother and her future sister-in-law's house to pick up her bridesmaid's dress. And along the way, we're kind of learning these things about the future sister-in-law, Beth. And right away, as the reader, we're like, man, is Beth a good person? Because she's got a cloud hanging over her from the town and even from the family that she's marrying into, thinking mostly about Riley's mother and like, oh man, like yikes. And the reason it all stems from is because she was in an accident that left her in chronic pain, and nobody seems to get that pain. And it almost feels like Riley wasn't even really aware of that pain until Riley begins experiencing it herself, and she kind of finds Beth as an ally. So I'm wondering if we can maybe talk a little bit before we dig more into Riley and her story. Can you tell us about Beth and how she became the woman that you portrayed her to be in such a way that unfolds that you begin kind of being like, ugh, I don't trust her. But then you learn to be like, wow, like this poor woman, she's just trying to make a go of it in the world with the hand that she's been dealt.
Well, I'm so glad you said that about Riley, maybe not totally understanding what Beth was going through until Riley went through it, because I think that's, often the case that we have a really hard time understanding something like chronic pain or chronic illness unless we've experienced it or know someone who has experienced it. And the reason I kind of wanted to portray Beth the way that she was because I think that sometimes when people are in pain or they are dealing with an illness, they kind of tend to put up some barriers and in order to sort of protect that vulnerability that they have from that illness or that pain. And so I think that Beth sort of didn't want people to know she was in pain. So she tried to put up a brave front, and, sometimes that made her seem a little more reserved than people would like. She got tired easily because of the pain. And so she and maybe being, beyond that, she was a little bit of a private person too. And I think there are those people in life where they're just very self-contained, and it's really hard to know what makes them tick, and then sort of add a condition on top of that. You get a person that can maybe be hard to read or doesn't let their defenses down and let people in very easily. And so I thought, I don't know, the developing friendship between Riley and Beth was something that sort of surprised me a little bit as I was writing it. I wasn't sure who Beth was going to be ultimately. And so I was kind of happy to see that Riley and Beth sort of got close as I was writing the book, just because they sort of bonded over that shared experience.
Yeah.
Well, and then on top of that, you also have that outsider element too, with the fact that Beth and her father are not from the area. And, Sarah, you've talked about this growing up in Maine, that when somebody comes into, it's so much more difficult for somebody to come into a smaller community and integrate themselves because they're the outsider. And that's what Beth was.
Yeah, I think that, when you grow up in a small town, you just grow up seeing and knowing the same people your entire life. And so when a new face shows up, I remember everyone being so excited if there was a new kid in school. But I was thinking, what if that new kid was kind of not real open to talking to the other kids or didn't really want to hang out with those kids? How would people respond? And so in North Haven, people responded sort of by rejecting her, almost before she could even reject them, kind of covering their pride a little bit. So Beth didn't have a really good start because of that, because she didn't sort of welcome everyone's advances or invitations to do things. And just, I think she had some secrets also that she didn't want everyone to know, including the issues with pain later on in the book.
She was just a really, for someone who is never really on, the way that the book is presented is you do these really cool flashbacks throughout the story. So you get to kind of see things happening in real time versus things that are happening, 3 months prior. So we do get to meet Beth, but for someone who she kind of begins the book missing and then found dead, she was really vivid and really alive. And I felt so sad for her. And for JC and I, we're cozy mystery authors. So our victims are either these, well-beloved people in the town that everybody is fighting for justice for, or maybe they're like this really awful person that our sleuth has to clear a friend's name for the murder mystery. But there's just something about Beth that was just like, it was so heartbreaking because she was just had so many layers to her. And the same goes for Riley. Riley's character, she is, I found it so fascinating getting to know her, because she not only has the dynamics within her family that she has to operate with, but she has to operate with others in the town and with the detectives that are on the case. So I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about Riley, her motivations, and maybe some challenges that you faced while writing her.
Sure. Yeah. I think that when I think of Riley, I think of her having two sort of competing drives, the drive to get out of her small town, but also the drive to be with her family and protect her family. And so, at the beginning of the book, she's just moved home, and she and her brother, who were once really, really close, they called themselves twins because they were born less than a year apart and went to school in the same grade. Her brother has stayed home and taken over the family farm, and Riley's moved away. And so suddenly there's this distance that they never had between them. So she's sort of trying to repair that distance. And then her father passes away before the book starts. And so the mom is grieving, and the mom's a bit of a difficult, person at times too, beyond that. And then there's her sister, Audra, who has moved out of the small town to another town. And so Riley ends up kind of relating to Audra a little bit more than Riley, who she was closer to growing up. So I thought that Riley, the way she exists just within her family, she sees herself as the glue that holds her family together. And that's what she's trying to do a lot of the book, trying to protect Ethan, trying to keep her mom from maybe going off the rails a little bit. And then also sort of teaming up with her sister, Audra. And then beyond that, of course, she has her health problems that she's dealing with. And so I made her a distance runner. And it's funny, a lot of times people ask me if I did that because I'm a distance runner. And I'm always like, no, I'm so flattered that you would even ask, that I could possibly be a distance runner, because I'm not at all. But I feel like, it's kind of provides a clear contrast for what she was before versus what she can do now. It's almost like shorthand for this is a very active, very determined person who now is having a hard time, maybe like walking from her car into a house or like getting out of bed some mornings. So I wanted to sort of show that impact on Riley and the way that going to doctors and not getting a diagnosis has kind of shaken her self-confidence. Like she doesn't really feel like the same person she was when she was running races and, just kind of excelling at work and everything. So she's not only dealing with all the family stuff, but sort of trying to regain trust in herself a little bit at the same time.
And the way...
Well, and Sarah, I hate to do this to y'all. We've only got like 10 minutes left.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Well, we have to share then before we dive in a little bit more to Riley and the health problems, because I really found that to be, a fascinating subplot of the story. And for folks listening, if you found our discussion so far fascinating, we have a treat for you today, because our giveaway that Kate is doing is a signed hardcover copy of Hidden Rooms.
Woohoo!
And so,
I want that so bad.
Yeah. So for today, for our magic word, make sure that you're logged into your Google or your YouTube account. And Kate, would you share with them what the magic word is?
Sure. Well, the book is set in autumn, so the magic word is autumn today.
Autumn. Perfect.
And I just want to say real quick, while everybody is typing this in, the book gave me also it gave me just about every single vibe on earth. But one of the things Sarah mentioned that just kind of brought to mind, and then I'll turn it back over to you, Sarah. It's got a little Twin Peaks vibe-ish, kind of the whole who killed Laura Palmer thing, who killed Beth, kind of the small town kind of thing. So anyway, folks, if you haven't done so yet, while we've been talking, if you haven't bought it yet, you have to now, except for the one lucky person who's going to win it. Okay, Sarah, back to your question.
I really love that Twin Peaks reference because, and especially, thinking about it from the detective's standpoint, because your detectives are someone who, so it's the sheriff, Polly, who is Audra, the sister's like best friend. And so I loved like the fact that Polly was kind of like playing a little bit of both sides, where she's able to give the family some information that maybe they wouldn't have received on a regular basis. But then you have Detective Osborne, who's been brought in, and he was a good detective. Like, I think often, we come across in especially like amateur sleuth fiction where, there's this contention between detectives, but I really liked him. He was a great detective. And I guess how I'm going to circle back to my prior question that I had is a moment where Riley, because of these health problems that she is having, she almost becomes this unreliable narrator for herself, because she isn't sure what is reality and what is, whatever is afflicting her. And when she's being questioned by the detective, she's having these memories. She's, not able to summon the words for certain items that, that she's like, oh, like the pill that you take over the counter for pain. And they're like ibuprofen. And because she hasn't shared what her own journey is, she becomes this kind of, almost these walls are being built around her, just like they were built around Beth, because Riley hasn't shared this with her family and the greater North Haven community. So I'm wondering maybe if we can touch a little bit on that, how her health journey really influences the mystery itself, and where that inspiration may have come from.
Yeah, I'm glad that you asked that again, because that was something that was sort of difficult as I was writing. This, again, it was my first book. So my idea in writing it actually came from having my own health issues in my 30s and trying to figure out what was wrong, and going to doctors and having tests, and still for a very long time not knowing. And I've always loved reading mysteries. So I thought to myself, I'm a lot like a detective, going to all these experts, talking to people, gathering information, and trying to solve my medical mystery. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be cool if someone wrote a mystery where the sleuth is trying to solve their own medical mystery? And then I thought, well, maybe someone will do that, and went about my business. And then eventually, I thought, well, okay, I'm going to set out and write this. And it took me a while to try and figure out how the subplot of Riley's illness really ties into the murder investigation. And so ultimately, the way that it made sense the most for me was for Riley to doubt her own perceptions, because these are all people in her life that she's close to, her brother, her brother's fiancé, all of the people who are suspects are people she knows well. So, she's doubting herself, her own perceptions about her body. So, she's even more confused about, well, can I trust my perceptions about what this person is doing? Was that an innocent conversation that I saw? Am I making too much of it? Ultimately, I felt like they meshed together well, because, Riley was trying to figure out the truth about herself and other people. And she just had so much uncertainty that it was a lot for her to navigate, I guess.
Well, and one of the things that really struck me that I thought you were so artful in writing, again, kind of the small town feel, is that to your point that everybody knows each other. Early in the book, when Beth first turns up missing, you have this just what I thought was really subtle but really powerful way of showing that everybody does know each other. Everybody either cares or is nosy, because everybody shows up at the house. But you don't make that big of a deal about it, but you just mention it like, okay, well, that's what people would do.
Yeah. And I think that, small towns really are wonderful about that, coming out to help each other in times of crisis. But then also small towns are notorious for being gossipy and wanting to know what everyone's doing, or just, speculating about what everyone's doing. So those two things sort of fit together early on in the book, where people are out to support the family, but some people are out to kind of get the gossip a little bit too. And so maybe that's another area where Riley's not sure exactly who she can trust, because there are rumors, very quickly going out around about her brother. as the prime suspect. So all these people that are kind of out looking to help the family, she sort of pushes away a little bit because they're sort of after her brother, or at least some of them are.
And we have a question from one of our audience members, Mizan. And Mizan, I'm going to get to your question in just a moment. I want to quickly refer to something, Kate, that you said about, when you were thinking about like, oh, it would be nice if somebody wrote a book about this. What made you decide to be the one to write the book?
Well, I've always loved writing. I think in first grade, I did this little book project where, I wrote a book and my poor mom had to like sew the spine together to turn it into like something that looked like a book. And my teacher was probably just humoring me and said, oh, you should be an author someday. And, back then that's what I wanted to do. And then of course, life gets in the way. And I ended up being a technical writer and taught writing and did all of these kind of writing adjacent things, but wasn't pursuing my own writing. And like, all the time though, I was writing down little ideas, snippets for books. And I've written poetry for a long time, but I had never written extensive fiction. And so I just decided, I think like a lot of people that you figure out, this isn't going to actually ever happen unless I sit down and do it. And so that was the book idea that had the most promise in my mind or interested me the most. So that's why I decided when I was going to write a book, that's the one I'm going to, put all my energy into at first.
We're very glad that you did. And so Mizan's question is that she's asking, is this part of a series or is it a standalone story? And if it's a standalone, do you have other stories that you're hoping or planning to tell?
Yes. I'm working on a sequel to this one right now.
Perfect.
Nice.
I'm about halfway through it. And, trying to, I did write another book in between actually, and it's a very different book. It's more of a humorous mystery. It's called Resting Sad Face, and it's about a professional mourner in Sarasota, Florida, who's working at a funeral and gets kind of tangled up in an investigation. So
oh my goodness.
that was really fun to go from something that was a little more intense with, Riley to something that was just like purely humorous. And now I'm back to Riley in North Haven. And hoping to have that done and submitted to my editor around September, maybe.
Perfect.
Nice.
I'm already hooked by Resting Sad Face as well.
Yeah, I want that book. Hey, I want all your books right now, please.
Yay. I love it.
Well, we only have a couple more minutes, so just want to make sure, folks, if you haven't done so yet, Kate is giving a hardback copy of Hidden Rooms away to a lucky winner, somebody who has put in the word autumn. So if you haven't done so, please do that right now, and then Sarah will do her magic here in a second. So Kate, your book baby is all of like 2 weeks old today.
Yes.
You mentioned before the show, it's been a very busy, hopefully fun time with all the release activities. Where can people find you in person and or online?
Online, I'm at www.katemichaelson.com, and all of my events are listed there on an events page. And then as far as in-person events, I don't have anything until June. I believe it's June 21st. I have a signing in my hometown of Greenwich at the library there.
Nice.
And so all the details for that are on the website. So I'm really looking forward to that, catching up with some friends there.
That's going to be, that'll be so amazing to be in the location that inspired it all.
Yeah, I know. I'm most excited about that probably after my launch event. That's, the most, and of course this, and that's the next.
Well, we know. We the bookish moment are always at the top of everybody's list. That's what Sarah and I tell ourselves. Okay, Sarah, you want to do the honors?
I do, and because time has absolutely flown by. So everyone, thank you very much for joining us today. Our winner for the hard copy giveaway this afternoon is Claudia Carpenter. Congratulations, Claudia. Claudia, if you would be so kind is to bump your mailing address to me to the top of my inbox by emailing giveaways@itsbookishtime.com. I'll send your information on over to Kate. Kate, thank you for being here. Thank you for writing an incredible book. Welcome to the wonderful world of authors, and congratulations on your publishing milestone. We are so looking forward to seeing what's in store for you next. And it's, again, thank you so much for spending a moment with us here today.
Yes. And Kate, real quick, we didn't get the answer, John Deere or New Holland?
Oh yeah, John Deere, totally.
John Deere, okay.
Yeah, if
All
my
right.
dad's watching, yeah, definitely John Deere. Yeah.
We want to make sure that all of our brand endorsements, so everybody knows. Perfect.
Yeah, send me the money, John Deere.
For our live audience members who joined us here today, thank you guys for being here. It's always so much fun hanging out with you and sharing these incredible authors. We have another Bookish Moment on Thursday this week. It's 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have Marjorie McCrowan joining us for a discussion, so it'll be another fun time. So we hope that you join us. And again, Kate, thank you for sharing your time with us, for sharing your work with us. And we can't wait to have you back on the show to talk more.
Thank you. This has been so much fun. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And
Yeah,
everyone.
and folks, don't forget, if you like the show, which you better have, make sure you like and subscribe.
Yes, that helps us very, very much. So until we see everyone next time, stay bookish, everybody. Have a good one.